So in this video, we'll see common mistake made by React developer when using Tanstack Query or React Query. So it's not easy to understand initially if you are not familiar with that, but it might cause some performance issue. So let's see that. So I have this library management system application, which you can find the link of this particular application in the description. So here I have a list of unassigned books for that particular student. So for displaying this dropdown, I'm using combo box. And to use this combo box, you need data in a specific format. So you can see here we are displaying list of frameworks with the title. But to get that data, you need to use this particular array of objects with value and label. But if you see this data, which is coming from the Supabase, which we are using for this application, is not in that particular format. So let me open this. So inside this particular API call. So if I print these books before coming to the component, I can print these books. Let me open the console. And if I refresh this page, you can see books is array of objects. So it contains lot of properties, but I want just label and value property. So what we normally do, we can use memo hook, or we can React query provides a select property. So here you can provide a function which will allow you to transform the data before getting that data. So instead of printing this array of objects with all the properties, what I'm doing is I'm returning an object, array of objects. So let me simplify this. So here I will use normal function and I will return this. So this is exactly same. So this is a function which is returning using array map method, and we are returning just the specific properties. So ID is also used, but you can skip that for now. So I have label and value. So whenever I print these books transformed, now if I say transformed, you can see it contains that label and value property. So whatever we need would be displayed in this particular drop. But there is a performance issue here. So wherever we are using any custom hook, so you should know that whenever you are using custom hook, every time that component which is using that custom hook re-render, that code gets executed again. So what we are doing, we are providing a function. We are using map method. So again, we are using looping over that data and we are getting that data. So anytime this issue book component gets re-rendered, we are again reselecting this data unnecessary. So to demonstrate that, I can add console.log here, selecting, and I can add a new button here. So I will add a button from Shadcn UI, and I can say toggle. And let me add a new state. So I can say refresh, set refresh. Initially it will be false. And whenever I click on this particular button, I can just change its value from true to false and false to true. So I will just negate this. And I can also display that value. So what is the current value of refresh? So what I'm doing, I have declared a state with initial value of false. And whenever I click on that button, I'm changing that false to true. And again, when I click, it's changed to true to false. And that value I'm displaying here. So whenever we change any state or set any state, the component will re-render. Now this function get custom hook, whatever we have written, that will also get executed. So every time, anytime the component re-render, all the custom hooks that you are using, those gets re-rendered. So let me show you now. Let me refresh this page and I will search for selecting. You can see initially it's rendered. Now when I click this, you can see selecting is printed. So here we are not able to see that value because it's a Boolean, and JSX React ignores Boolean values. So they will not be displayed. So you need to convert it into string and then it will get this. Now you can see, let me refresh again. So initially that value will be false. You can see it's false. Now when I click on this, it becomes true and you see this select. Again, when I click, you again see this selecting. So every time I click, you are printing that selecting. From where that selecting is coming, it's coming from here. So if you have large data, let's say 1,000 books or 10,000 books, then on every click, so every time the parent component re-render, you are again filtering that data. So you are using map method to loop over that data, which is not good. This is a performance issue. So when you are using select function, you should not directly pass this function. So what happens is on every re-render, you are recreating this particular function. So whenever the component gets re-rendered, all these functions are also recreated. All the functions you declare inside custom hooks are also recreated. So you are unnecessarily executing that code again and again. So how to fix this? So to fix this, instead of directly writing function here, you can create a separate function. You can say get transformed, or again the transform data, and you can write function separate, and you now pass this function here. Now what we are doing, note that this function is not declared inside this custom hook, it's outside. Because if you declare it outside, again it will be recreated, which we don't want. So we are declaring this function outside and we are just referencing. So now whenever the parent component gets re-rendered, we are not recreating this function. So it will not be executed again. So now this selecting will not be displayed. So let me refresh. So now you can see initially it's displayed. Now when I click, you can see it's not displayed. So the value is changing from true to false, false to true. But your component, even if the component is re-rendering, this code filtering is not happening again, which is good thing. So you are not unnecessarily re-rendering or recalculating all these values. So no matter if you have 1,000 or 10,000 books or data of 10,000 users, you are not looping that again on every re-render, which is very important thing. You should be aware of this. So whenever you are using select to transform the data, always make sure to create a separate function instead of directly writing function here. So if you don't want to create separate function, you can use callback hook. So here instead of directly referencing this, you can use callback hook. So here I can directly pass this particular function. And for this particular use callback, you can pass empty dependence. Now I'm not using this transform data function, so I will remove this. And now use callback is used. So, and we are passing empty dependency here. So it will not be called again and again, even if your parent component gets re-rendered. So let me show you. So initially you will see the selecting printed, but when I click, you can see it's not getting executed. So you are correctly getting that data which you want. So when you pass empty array, this does not mean that whenever the books changes, this code will not execute. So React query or Tanstack query will again execute this code even if you are not passing this data. So here you can see I have cats in the hats and Gruffalo. These are the books I have assigned. So if I remove one of the book which is assigned, so delete this and come back here, you can see, you see this updated data. So that means selecting, you can see now it's printed. So when you pass empty array, it does not mean that React will not recall this function when the data changes, because we are using use callback and we are using select method. So React query will re-execute that code. So if you don't want to create a separate function, then use callback. But instead of making it complex using use callback, it's always good to separate out that in a separate function. So you don't have to worry about that empty dependency and all these things. So this is a simple thing. So it's very important whenever you are using, I have explained in my YouTube video also about custom hooks. So you can check out on my YouTube channel. Every time the parent component re-render, all the custom hooks that you are using in your component gets re-executed. So they will be again, all the code, whatever you have, those will be again executed. So if you have functions inside this particular custom hook, those will again get re-executed. So those will be again get created. So you need to aware if you are using this select function, you need to use fixed identity. So declare this function outside and don't directly write it. So that's it for this video. So if you want to learn how to build this application using React Query, Tanstack Query, and Supabase from scratch, everything from scratch, step by step, then check out the link in the description and also the linked video. So that's it for this video. If you found this useful, do like it and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.